Dan Lanning's fourth down decisions questioned once again here this season, and he's doubling down. Should he? Here we go.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. So if you have not already, please like, comment, subscribe, rate, review. Please and thank you wherever you listen to or watch the show. Did you know that we're coming up on 4,000 on YouTube? We're almost to 3,900, so we can get there. Can we do it before the Utah game? Let's find out. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself. When you purchase a Jace case providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat over 50 infections, get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. First note off the top, Jalil Florence back at practice, expected to be good to go. That's certainly good to hear for Lanning's defense, which, as I talked about on yesterday's show, I think looks pretty darn good this season. So let's talk about the fourth down decisions, which haven't been great. Well, at least in the Washington games, they haven't over the last couple of years. Against Oregon State, they did not work out or go particularly well. Lanning was asked about that in his press conference earlier this week. I watched and saw what he said, and I have a couple of thoughts. First thing that stood out to me is that he made it clear that those decisions to go for it on fourth down are not being made on a whim. It's not like they're, do we go? Do we not go? Are we? Okay, sure. Why not? Let's go. This is something that they are game planning ahead of time because against Washington, they felt that field goals weren't going to win them the football game. Not an unreasonable thing to think. Of course, you can look back in retrospect and say, well, if they kicked the field goal before the half, then, Washington is tying the game and Camden Lewis's kick is for the win, which means we're in overtime. That also does not guarantee a win. And as I've discussed, the second fourth down decision, Oregon ended up getting a quick 7 points anyway because they got a 3-and-out and scored on a short field. And you can't guarantee you'd score a touchdown with 30 to 40 more yards to go. So the other thing that Lanning talked about, and I liked hearing that, by the way, and I think that overall Lanning's tone and tenor of how he's handling this stuff, he said at one point, like, I'm a big boy, I can handle criticism and I deserve it. That's what I want to hear from my head coach. Because there are some coaches out there who don't go into that mode. Brandon Staley of the Chargers, for instance. Sometimes when he's at the podium talking to fans and, the NFL world and everybody can kind of have a I know better than you mentality. Lanning just says, this is our approach. This is our process. We believe in it. We're continually assessing what we need to do better, what we can do better, why this didn't work. But it does not sound like these are decisions that are being made, purely from an analytical standpoint or that it's, a decision that comes from up top or pressure from the outside or nothing like that. This is something that they felt going into the game. Hey, we're going to need to score touchdowns here. So we're going to have plays for this particular moment. And the execution just wasn't there. Remember, on 4th and goal before the half, even when Lanning has since admitted, hey, probably should have kicked the field goal there. He was also not going to point this out, of course, because that's just not the way he acts as a head coach. He was also missing from that point that Troy Franklin is open and Bo Nix just didn't throw the football. For some reason, he didn't trust that Troy was going to get open, and he didn't. He didn't throw it, and he wanted him to go to the back pylon, but by that point, it was a broken play, and he was pushed out and everything like that. You're not going to get that call in that spot. Troy Franklin wins the route to the near pylon on that kind of, angle fade or whatever you call it. It's there. Bo just didn't make the throw. So didn't have an issue with the play calling other than not running it before the half, giving it to Bucky Irving at least once. The other thing that he talked about that I agree with is the odds of going 0 for 3 on fourth down and 3 or less are pretty slim. You had 4th and goal from, I believe it was the 2. You had a 4th and 3 there at the end of the game, and you had a 4th and 3 for the second try. The odds of not getting all 3 are pretty low. He is right about that. That is not something to try and justify his decision. How many times you convert a 4th and 3? Pretty often. Certainly not 0 for 3, right? Depends on the team, depends on the season. I think he's taking the criticism well, and I don't have an issue with what with what they did. I don't. Because here's the thing. Would you rather have a coach who is super conservative? I mean, that's, fundamentally what people didn't like about Mario Cristobal is he didn't throw the football. He didn't push it down the field enough. I agree with those critiques. Would you rather have a team that is willing to put its faith in its players to make a big play and to go for the jugular, or would you rather have a team that kind of sits back and is just kind of content, just kind of there? It's situational, right? I lean towards being aggressive, right? Remember, that's why we all love Chip Kelly once upon a time, because he would go for it on fourth down all the time. Anytime we cross midfield, going for it on fourth down. Well, sometimes Lanning does it on his own side of midfield. You might not like that. You might not have liked going for it on 4th and 3. I don't know that I loved the 4th and 3 call at the end of the game. I certainly didn't think it was hugely objectionable. You can certainly go either way on those calls. But I think with the way that Lanning is approaching them and the way he is responding to the outcomes is, his remark of, if I knew we weren't going to get any of them, then yeah, I'd make a different call. But you don't know that. It's a gamble. It's a roll of the dice. But the odds that, like, if I told you right now, look at this offense. You got a fifth-year quarterback. You got a good offensive line. You got a bunch of weapons. How many times are they going to fail to convert a 4th and 3? Certainly 1 of 3, I would say, is the worst. And unfortunately, they went 0 for 3. And I think in more instances than not, 2 for 3 is more likely than 0 for 3. Now, it still comes down to a game-by-game basis, a situational basis. And I think for that last play call on 4th and 3, why I would have leaned with the punt on that one and why I found that one the most, regrettable, unfortunate, objectionable, whatever word you want to use, is because you'd failed on 4th and 3 twice before. So it's not like you were feeling good in those spots. It's not like you had proved, yeah, we can execute here when the defense knows we're just trying to pick up 3 or 4 or 5 yards. That was the other issue that I had there, is whether or not the play calls were correct. The execution was not there. Bo didn't make the right read. Bo didn't make a throw. Whatever you want to look at. They were 0 for 2 already. That's why. That's part of the reason that I would have punted there. So we should not expect Dan Lanning to suddenly correct course here and just suddenly never go for it on 4th down in a big spot, because sometimes he gets those. Right? Remember BYU last year? Big 4th down early in that first half. Allowed Oregon to blow the game open. I think that's what he was thinking about at the end of the first half is, hey, we feel like we have plays that we've worked on and can execute. And if we get a touchdown here, we could come out in the second half and we could have a 2-possession lead if we go down and get a touchdown. Now, Joel Klatt made an excellent point, and this is, again, the second year the guy's ever been a head coach, and maybe we're just watching him learn on the job. Maybe that's what we're having to endure right now. Could be. We'll see. But Joel Klatt made an excellent point, and that's that at the end of the half, you kick the field goal because the upside of not getting the 4th down that Oregon had on their second 4th down attempt does not exist. And that upside is you have backed Washington up inside their own 5-yard line, and the most likely outcome is a punt in a short field for your offense, which had just proved that they can move the ball down the field. I think that is a perfectly valid take. But these calculations, they're going to continue to come up. He's going to continue to have to make them. I don't think he's going to change course. I don't know that he should. I don't think that he should, because it's a case-by-case basis. I don't want a blanket philosophy of, no, we're always going to go for it here because the analytics say this. No, you got to think about stuff, okay? Analytics say you should take driver off of almost every single hole, but you got to think about the context of how confident a player is feeling with his driver. If he's not feeling great, then guess what? Numbers go out the window. So that's where we're at right now. I really like this press conference. I like what this team is saying right now. They're saying all the right things to make us feel better about what they can do going forward. And the mission right now is to go 6-0. That is certainly possible, not easy, but attainable, both from a scheduling standpoint, 4 to the next 6 games at home, and a team caliber standpoint. I believe this team is going to be favored in each of the next 6 games they play. Doesn't mean they automatically win them all, but they are certainly capable of doing so. We have so much more to get to on today's show. I mean, just a flurry of mailbag questions. You get a flurry of antibiotics in your Jace case, which is why you should get yours now. In an unpredictable world, you want to be prepared to take care of yourself and your loved ones for your unique needs. The Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Jace Medical now offers customizability for your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. Go to jacemedical.com, enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount off your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jasemedical.com to get the Jace case with 5 essential antibiotics to care for yourself and your family at all times. By the way, did you know that Oregon, according to our friends at FanDuel, is a 20-point favorite against Washington State at home? I think there's a reason for that. I think it's that Oregon is a better team. I think that Oregon's at home. I think they're ticked off too. Not ticked off in like a the season's over kind of way, but in a we're out to prove something way. And they're very aware of that. If you think Oregon covers that spread, go bet it over at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or lose. That's simple. The app is really easy to use, wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Little second segment sip. Keep us going. We got so much to get to. Gosh almighty. We're going rapid fire. Mailbag question here. This from James. YouTube comments or Twitter, or you can join Locked On Ducks Insiders, where you get breaking news, the inside scoop, exclusive content delivered directly to your phone, plus one-on-one conversations with me via text. Join the Locked On Ducks Subtext Insiders now and be in the know all the time. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnDucks or click the link in the description below. This question came in from James. Next show question. You think it's fair Bo got bounced out of the Heisman conversation because of a loss, even though he statistically outperformed Penix? Bo isn't even in the top 5 in all lists I've seen this week. Short answer, no. This is, however, the issue with the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy is supposed to be awarded to the most outstanding player in college football. Now, they have gotten it right before. I actually have to give them credit as I think about it, because last year, USC was not the best team, but Caleb Williams was the best player, and he got the Heisman Trophy. And historically, I think an Alabama quarterback like Mac Jones would have gotten the Heisman Trophy in 2020 instead of Devontae Smith, even though Devontae Smith was pretty clearly the best player. And we see what Mac Jones is in the NFL and what Devontae Smith is in the NFL, and you understand, oh, okay, yeah, Devontae Smith was the best player there. It is not fair that Bo is now outside the top 5 in Heisman odds. There's 2 thoughts on this. Number one, it shows the flaw in the award. I am still not over Christian McCaffrey finishing behind Derrick Henry for the Heisman in 2015. It's utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. I'm still mad about that. And I forever will be, because it's absurd. So it's a flaw in the voting process that it's so directly tied to your team's success. But I'm not surprised by it, given the way that the process is structured. Bo Nix is having a great season. Penix is having a better one statistically. And we know that the way your team performs matters. It always has. Oregon's only ever had a Heisman finalist when they've made the national championship game. That is no different. Well, college football playoff in 2014, 2010 with LaMichael, the national championship game. You got to be in that picture out of Oregon, because, you know, typically we've just had, I think if Oregon had come up a game short, they still could have had Mariota at the very least as a finalist for the Heisman in 2014. But typically we've had such great offenses with so many great players that you can't put up as, you know, gaudy numbers, because Oregon has a history of running the football across a variety of coaching staffs. LaMichael and Kenyon ran the ball really well. Royce Freeman ran the ball a lot. And then, you know, you look at the teams the last several years, and, you know, Herbert's offenses, of course, didn't have the firepower to allow him to put up those sorts of numbers. But, you know, Bo Nix can put up really good stats, but it can't be the same as Michael Penix, because Oregon actually runs the ball, right? Washington, I think, went for like 99 yards on the ground on Saturday. Oregon went for 200. And that's been the split for Washington all year, is like 80% of their offense, it all goes through Penix. And they have such great receivers that he can put up those sorts of numbers. So the upside, though, And I'm not surprised and not concerned about that, because if Oregon does get to the college football playoff this year, which I believe is their ceiling, and then we'll see about matchups whether or not they could make the national championship game. One game at a time, though. Cougs are up next. Certainly don't want to overlook them, though I feel really good about the Ducks. I look at Oregon and say, okay, if they get to the playoff, Bo Nix will be a Heisman finalist. I felt that before the year, and I still feel that right now. I don't think that has changed. Does he have to continue playing well? Yeah, but he's played well all season, right? And it's tied to team success. That's kind of a flaw in the award sometimes. But if Oregon's capable of having enough team success. Okay. This is a subtext question. Big change. Remember, you get priority mailbag in there too. Like this question was put up towards the front of the line. A big change that I noticed and seems to be widespread among both Duck and Dog fans is a much more respectful and less vitriolic relationship between the fan bases of our teams this year. Your thoughts? If you agree, what is behind that change? Top-ranked teams both going to the Big Ten next year. I don't think it's any different. I think there are those who still, will pretty openly say F the other team and I hate them and they suck and Husky hate week and truck the Ducks, but not truck and all that sort of stuff. I think that's always been there and it's still there. However, there are definitely fans that understand and respect the rivalry while also not taking it to a vitriolic level of disdain that some people do. You can always find people on both sides. I don't think anything has changed on that front. I think with Oregon State, it has changed more. I think there are more Oregon fans now that respect the Beavs and empathize with the Beavs and root for the Beavs than there used to be because of this realignment nonsense. I am one of those people. I'm absolutely positively one of those people who have a more positive view and sentiment towards Oregon State than I used to growing up, because they are getting screwed in this stuff and they don't deserve it. Because as we can all see, they're a good football team. So 4 questions here from Alex. Who would be Bo Nix's comp in the NFL? If Lanning loses to Oregon State, is it a fireable offense? Does Oregon have a path to the college football playoff through the Big Ten? What is your ideal offensive script to start a drive using the current Ducks roster? That's a lot. There's a lot to dive into there. We're going to go semi-rapid fire here because, like I said, got a lot to get to on today's show. A lot to get to on tomorrow and Friday's show as well. Eric Scopel coming on the pod on Friday to talk about the matchup with Washington State. Bo Nix's comp in the NFL is kind of tricky. I think he's a more mobile Derek Carr. He has much better legs. I think could even have a better arm. But when I watch Derek Carr, and by the way, that's not a knock. Carr is a franchise, starting quarterback in the NFL, just not a high level one. Carr has an issue sometimes, not always pushing the ball down the field. Bo Nix does that well. He does not do it as well as some other NFL caliber quarterbacks like a Michael Penix or a Caleb Williams, for instance. And he has a lot of success throwing the ball in and around the line of scrimmage. And he is very good at that and has a quick release and uses his mobility. I think Bo Nix's ceiling is being a better version of Derek Carr. I think that he has to go to the right system in order to do that. But I think that comp is pretty accurate there. Both guys are solidly accurate, good enough arm, but don't have the biggest arm, don't have the most accuracy. And I think Bo's got a little more mobility. I think Carr's ball placement's a tad more precise, but I see Bo Nix making NFL throws all the time. He's got to go to the right spot. But I mean, if he went to, if you put Bo Nix into the 49ers offense right now with Brock Purdy, I think he's capable of having success. At Purdy's level, I don't know. But I think that there's nothing I see Purdy doing that I don't think Bo Nix is also capable of doing with the way they move the pocket and everything. If Lanning loses to Oregon State, is it a fireable offense? No, it'd just be maddening. It would just be maddening, frustrating, disappointing for him to have all these wins and then be 0-4 against the rivals. That'd be brutal. And he's sitting at 0-3 right now. And there's certainly some fans who are going to ratchet up the pressure on him for that game at the end of the season, saying, you got to win that game. And you should win that game. You should win that game. But no, individually, not even close to a fireable offense. Does Oregon have a path to the college football playoff through the Big Ten? Yes, because it's 12-team format. They get there every year. They'll be capable of getting there every year. With the way they're recruiting, we got Brian Smith coming on the show tomorrow. Recruiting's in a really good spot if you did not know. Now that the sting of the Washington loss is worn off, that recruiting success kind of settling in for me a bit. Feels nice. Aiden Breland, first 5-star. Elijah Rushing, trending towards the Ducks. We'll talk about all that tomorrow on the show. But in the 12-team playoff, if you're in the Big Ten, you could go 9-3 if you have the right schedule and make the 12-team playoff. There's a world in which that's possible. Look at the Big 12. The Big 12 stinks. If Penn State this year, let's say they had the 12-team playoff this season, if Penn State loses a close game to Ohio State and Michigan and were to, for instance, have a solid Power 5 opponent on their non-conference schedule, like, an ACC team, let's say they played like North Carolina in the non-conference randomly and lost. That 9-3 Penn State team that'd be waxing everybody else, and 2 close losses, the Michigan and Ohio State, could absolutely get into a 12-team playoff. 10-2 is the safe place to be. But there will be a 3-loss team that gets into the playoff, which is why I don't care for the 12-team playoff. I'm not a big fan. One more question from Alex, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 from Nathan. I'm going to get to all of them, and we're going to get out of here in under 30 minutes of show talking time. I assure you of that. I also assure you that eBay Motors has got everything you need. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, the Red Rocket sitting out in the garage. That's my number one ride or die forever. I've had it for over 9 years. You'll always find actually, I've had it for 10 years now. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it is closer to 9 years. But regardless, if I want to keep it alive, eBay Motors, great place to do that. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions apply. We're going to do it. We're going to do it here. Question number 4 from Alex, just rolling through. What is your ideal offensive script to start a drive using the current Ducks roster? I won't pretend to know play calling lingo. It's hilariously awesome and complicated. But I look at the way that Oregon comes out under Will Stein. There have been a couple slow starts offensively, to be sure. I've always been a fan of a play that you feel on first down for your first play of the game has about a 90% chance of getting you forward yards. I'm not a big fan of a shot play on 1st and 10. I'm not a big fan of going for a 20-yard comeback. I am a fan of if you get a run look or some kind of RPO or a quick hitting pass. I think that what Dillingham did last year, he loved the fly sweeps and the pop passes to begin games, did that a lot, had a lot of success. Chip Kelly, back in the day when Oregon was going fast, you know what the first play was? It was usually just a spacing concept where you just run a bunch of curls or quick outs or kind of option routes, and it was just to kind of break the ice, get your quarterback into the swing of things, just a 3 to 5 yard completion, just move it forward, make it easy to move the chains and build some momentum. But I mean, I'm a fan of a runner RPO or a quick hitter on first down, see how many yards you get, then probably go to the ground. And, if you pick up a first down, great, like run it until they can't stop it. But then eventually at some point, be willing to, have all those kind of short hitting plays to set up and take a shot early in the game. When you got Troy Franklin and the catches that he can make, and you have other quality weapons, but most notably number 11, Tez Johnson has got great speed. I like early in the game, not, first 2 or 3 plays, but I enjoy like Stanford, for instance, right? Bo Nix wasn't quite into the rhythm, had Tez Johnson on a deep route, missed him. Later in the game, more in rhythm, had Bo Nix on a deep shot, hit him for a touchdown. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Settle in your quarterback, establish the ground game, make the defense come up a little, and then sometime on that first drive, try to take a shot to hit an explosive. Generally speaking, like I could script out, 8 concepts or plays I'd like to see run, but just like broadly speaking is probably where I should keep it, given my lack of intimate knowledge of play calling and whatnot. That's kind of what I like to see. Nathan, 4 questions here. How important is it that Tai has successful touches in the second half of the season? I don't know if it's crucial because his growth has been evident this year. in what we've seen, and he hasn't had that many touches and opportunities, and he's taking reps at practice. It's not like he's not playing football at all. I think it's a good thing that if we could, maybe blow out Washington State this week, I don't know if it can get to that level, but if we could, I don't know, beat Cal soundly or beat Arizona State soundly and get Tai Thompson into the game, I'm never opposed to that. Never have been, never will be. So I think it's a good thing. I wouldn't describe it as vital as far as his 2024, chances of being a starter. I think his development from what we have seen has been substantial. Also, breakout players for the second half of the season. I would like to see one position group in particular. Brian Addison is away from the team for personal reasons, according to Dan Lanning. No idea when he'll be back. But Oregon still, I think their safety play has improved. But if you go look at that 2-play touchdown drive that Washington had to take the lead, that first pass attempt, Evan Williams bites on an underneath out route, and then in struggling to catch up, fails to locate the football. Like, that was a 2-man concept. You have 2 deep safeties. You're running man-to-man underneath. And I don't know if Tysheem Johnson just got beat or if everyone was in a trail technique where you're intentionally running behind the receiver to, let the safeties help you over the top and take away underneath stuff. That throw can't happen against that concept, right? In cover 3, you can create a one-on-one. In cover 1, you can have one-on-ones, right? That's what the touchdown was. Evan Williams was in the middle of the field. Penix held him with his eyes, takes the one-on-one shot. Williams can't get there in time. But in Tampa 2, in 2-man under, you should not be getting beat deep for a 30 to 40-yard completion. So I would look at Tysheem Johnson or Evan Williams or Steve Stevens, somebody from that group. I think that the coaching staff is aware of the still kind of lack of production they're getting from that position group, and I think somebody can pop. I do. I think somebody can pop, and I look at Patrick Herbert as well. He's come on really, really strong, been playing some good football. 2 more here. I agree with you. That sucked, the Washington game. At least it was to the number 7 team on the road. I kind of agree with you on that last 4th down. I didn't hate the call, but was like, that's risky. You've seen more of these games than I have. So I guess my question is, why does this keep happening? Like when you said it's pass only on 4th and 3, that's insightful. I feel we should keep the aggression that we get when we get in these situations, but it's like the offense is rolling when we get into 3rd and short, 4th and short with high pressure situations and the field tightens up like we're inside of their 20. Well, the reason that on 4th and 2 or 3, you're not calling a deep shot all the time is because the likelihood of completing a longer pass down the field is statistically less, right? Bo Nix's completion percentage on passes, within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage, a lot higher than 15 to 20 yards away from the line of scrimmage. So that's why. Why does this keep happening? Honestly, when I look at the talent and I look at the play calls and the execution that's been there, I think a lot of it is just bad luck. And that you have to understand you're not going to convert 100% of those situations. And maybe Bo Nix and Will Stein and the offense are just not good at 4th and short. Maybe they just aren't. I'd be willing to bet that if over the course of a season, Oregon converts 6 out of 12 on 4th down, it feels like we've seen 4 of those 6 misses in key spots at Texas Tech on 4th and 1, and then the 3 against Washington on Saturday. Maybe the play calling's got to be sharper. Bo Nix has got to make better reads sometimes. But I mean, I really feel like those are the things that can go wrong and why punting is the safer play, because sometimes you don't execute the play. Sometimes you scheme a guy open, the quarterback doesn't see him, or the offensive lineman gets beat. Sometimes that stuff just happens. So I think a decent amount of it, honestly, is bad luck. Last one here. Also, I question them not playing Triquez Bridges all year, then throwing him into the deep end. Like, Odunze is tough, but that was weird. You think we'll see Bridges a lot more now? Didn't think it was weird because he's the number 2 guy on the depth chart there when Jaleel Florence goes down for a reason. They also have Jaleel Florence ahead of him for a reason. I think Florence has got a little bit more speed. Bridges, of course, has more length. Florence, by the way, played a good game. Got beat for the touchdown early. Also had the interception that should have led to points. And overall, wasn't exactly getting burned in coverage all the time, and I think has done a really good job improving his tackling. If we see more Bridges, I'm going to be fine with that. I would have been fine with that anyway, because I think he was really good last year, and I think he's still capable of being good, and we saw that on Saturday. I don't see any changes coming on the depth chart, though. Triquez being prepared for that moment is a testament to the coaching staff and the work ethic of Triquez himself. Does not automatically mean he's going to catapult Jalil Florence, who has still played really, really well this season. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, go Ducks.